Good morning, everybody. I would like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting of the 9th of April 2025, and I declare this meeting open at 9 a.m. I would like to advise attendees in the room that this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. You may note that our Director of Growth, Economy and Sustainability, Mr David Hanson, is an apology for today. So we have the pleasure of our Waste Resource and Recovery Manager, Mr Michael Asnakar, stepping in with me today. I will now move on to leaves of absence. I don't believe there's any leaves of absence, so we can move on. Confirmation of previous committee meetings. There's a motion displayed on the screen. Can I have a mover? Councillor Murphy, can I have a seconder? Councillor Jeremiah, all those in favour? And that has been carried. Celine? Oh, sorry. It's okay. That's fine. Tim, Councillor Fraser's in the kitchen, so we're all good. Sorry. Okay, carrying on. Where am I? Declarations of conflicts of interest. Do any councillors wish to declare a conflict of interest today? No? There being none, I'll move on to general business. Okay, so the Development Assessment Manager, Mr Stephen Ball, is an apology today also. So we have the Development Engineering Program Leader, Mr Eddie Denman, filling in for him. Does anyone have any GB for Eddie on behalf of Stephen? No? Eddie, do you have any for us?
Through the chair, no.
Wonderful. You have a great day. Thank you. Councillors, do we have any? Okay, we'll leave Michael to the end, I think. So we'll move on to our reports. Okay, we have two reports today. The item 6.1, review of immunisation clinic delivery. I note that 6.1 is a public report, and I'll now refer to the Health, Climate and Conservation Manager, Mr Brett Esmonton, to please speak to report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is proposing changes to how we deliver our immunisation clinics. The service has been rapidly growing, particularly since COVID. The key changes that we are looking to propose in this report are discontinuing the Greenbank and Jimboomba clinics, opening a new clinic at Chambers Flat Community Centre, and changing the number of clinics we deliver each week to 6 clinics a week that go for 3 hours each on a fortnightly rotation that will service 10 locations across the city. And this is a change from the 11 clinics that we deliver every week at the moment, which are mostly about an hour each. The benefits of those changes will be that there'll be an overall increase in the number of client-facing hours that our community will see from that change each fortnight. It will also lead to a slight reduction in the total casual nurse hours each fortnight, which will deliver a modest employee cost savings. And there will be greater client hours spent by those nurses when they're employed, because they'll spend less time shutting down and setting up and travelling between clinics by having longer, less frequent clinics. And it'll ensure that our services are delivered where and when the community needs them. So our analysis of the data of clients shows that people attend clinics primarily based on the day of the week that suits them best, rather than necessarily going to the clinic that is closest to them. So as an example, with those clinics that we're shutting, 296 clients who visited Jimboomba Library Clinic, 108 of those were from postcode 4280. However, over the entire city, we showed that 271 residents from that same postcode attended other clinics across the city. So more people are travelling to the clinic that suits them best on the day rather than the location. The change will also help our staff with their psychosocial wellbeing by offering casual staff longer shifts and more time doing the job that they want to do, which is seeing clients, rather than that time packing up, moving between clinics. And if endorsed, we'll work with our corporate communications team to ensure that those changes are communicated to the community. I'm happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. I have Councillor Bradley and then Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you very much for this report. I'm just curious, being a former nurse or still registered but non-practicing, I used to love working casual because it was great money. Mm-hmm. Are the nurses only casual?
So through the chair, we have a large casual workforce, which we recently converted from agency to casual. Mm-hmm. And we have 3 positions that are permanent or full-time positions who manage the system. Yep. And then the nurses who are actually out vaccinating are predominantly casual workforce, yes.
Okay. And so out of how many staff is that? The 3 out of how many staff?
Well, we have about, I think, 30 nurses on our books.
Right.
But they're not all working full-time. Some will work a 3-hour shift a week, a fortnight. Others will work 10 hours a week, right, depending on what the rotation is that we need.
Okay, all right. I'll just refrain from any further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. I have Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Whilst I would love to keep both Flagstone and Greenbank open, I understand the methodology about why we need to close one, saving on staff and all the rest of it. I really, really do. But I am just curious, with the Greenbank numbers being higher than Flagstone, why was the choice to close Greenbank and not keep it open and keep Flagstone open?
Thank you, through the chair. We didn't just base the decision on numbers, we also based on suitability of venue. And from the clinical perspective for the nurses, in terms of setup and waiting areas and all those sorts of things, how they set the room up, they figured that was the better location for them to use. Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I just hope it works. I hope Flagstone numbers actually boost. And if they don't boost, hopefully you might be able to revisit it in the future, and then possibly, if it doesn't, if it works, fantastic. But if not, swap it back.
Through the chair, we will continue reviewing and looking at our services and adapting them, and making sure that we are delivering what the community needs.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. I have Deputy Mayor Bannon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I obviously asked all my questions prior. I just want to say you did a really good job. Everything I asked, you answered really well, almost too well. But I appreciate your input, your professionals, and yeah, I'm happy to move it when it comes out, Madam Chair.
Thank you. There are no further questions. I believe we have a motion on the board. It has been moved by Deputy Mayor Bannon. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilcox, all those in favour? That has been carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Okay. Councillors, do we have any general business for Brett this morning? No, Brett, do you have any for us?
Through the chair, no, I don't. Thank you.
Wonderful. You enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6.2, SEQ City Deals Public Art Initiative Projects. I note that 6.2 is a public report, and I will now refer to the Placemaking and Urban Design Project Leader, Mrs. Ella Duplessis, to please speak to the report.
Through the chair, thank you so much. The purpose of this report is really to seek approval from Council for the projects and the approach that Council will use to deliver the South East Queensland City Deal Public Art Initiative. The Australian Government has allocated just over $1 million in grant funding to Logan City Council through a non-competitive application and assessment process to deliver and develop public art that contributes to place-based activation and deliver improvements to the built environment. Now, Council has endorsed our urban art strategy in 2022 following public consultation and wider engagement with the artist community, which informed the objectives of the strategy. The placemaking approach for Logan's economic transformation was also endorsed in 2024, which guides the future development of placemaking actions and initiatives, which also include urban art projects. Now, the SEQ City Deal Public Art Initiative projects will be required to meet all the program objectives and must achieve the outcome of at least an enhanced cultural experience, aesthetic of the built environment, and quality of public spaces. Now, the project selection process is at Council's discretion, but artwork must be selected using an open, fair and transparent process with evidence of community consultation where possible. And for this reason, and to ensure that key criteria and mandatory SEQ City Deal Public Art Initiative objectives are met, it's recommended that the Urban Art Strategy guides the project selection criteria and that project locations are focused on centres and public places with a clear association with built form. Based on the feedback from an informal council meeting earlier this year, we have developed a project selection approach, which is detailed in the report, and aligns with the general processes in the Urban Art Strategy. We are recommending 3 public art initiative projects to be approved by Council for submission to secure grant funding under this grant funding program. The first, a city landmark artwork with its ideal location in Springwood. Precinct markers or markers for the rail trail, the Bethania to Logan Village rail trail, and a city centre functional art trail. Now, it's recommended that the nominated locations for the functional art trail be located in centres and areas in the divisions where there wasn't much investment in placemaking projects over the last 5 years. So really in keeping with the outcomes of the place plan to focus on all centres across the city. The next steps is the issuing of an expression of interest to invite ideas and concepts from artists, and then we'll come back to Council to get approval of these concepts prior to submission for the grant funding. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ella. We have Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much. At the informal meeting, I raised a video footage of children playing on public art on a footpath. And I imagined, and I asked my councillor colleagues to imagine kids going to school enjoying that opportunity for youth art. And I think some were quite happy with that option, and it doesn't appear here. I'm just curious as to whether or not the sentiment in the room that day didn't really go anywhere, or is it you've got this determined Springwood option as well as the rail trail? Just curious.
Through the chair, we did following the informal council meeting, we did go back to the SEQ City Deal team to seek some feedback on some of those proposals. So there's a minimum spend on projects, and that type of project potentially will not meet that time frame or the budget cut-off where it needs to be a minimum of 50,000 and the maintenance requirements associated with that. So that's the main reason why that wasn't, and based on the further consultation with councillors, that was then determined not to form part of the recommendation.
Sorry, the 1.020 million divided by 12 divisions is 83,000, so it would meet that $50,000 thing. I'm just curious because I don't remember a next round of consultation after that one, but I could be mistaken.
Through the chair, based on the feedback from the informal council meeting, the recommendation was to focus on centres where we haven't done any work, such as the divisions where we haven't invested as part of the City Centre Implementation Fund. So based on that feedback, we have focused on other centres. So we didn't include divisions 2, 9, where we've done a fair bit of investment over the last couple of years. And that was the reason why we then focused on the functional art trail, and that would be the one where we then recommend to spread that across the city.
Division 1's received money in the last couple of years, Fitzgerald Avenue, a range of other things, so that doesn't quite, I don't understand that. Like we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Do we have any other questions? No. Okay, we have a motion on the board. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Bannon, seconder, Councillor Hall. All those in favour? That has been carried with the exception of Councillor Lane. How do you vote?
Against.
Thank you. Okay. Now, does anyone have any general business for the Economic Development and City Planning Manager, Mr. Dave Radich, today? No? Dave, do you have any for us?
Through the chair, yes, I do. So I just wanted to build on the conversation last week around growth. So last Thursday I sent an email around that provided some updates from the ABS, so Australian Bureau of Statistics, that show that Logan, once again for the second financial year in a row, is the highest growing city in southeast Queensland and in Queensland. So we've reached a fairly significant milestone where we now have an estimated 400,000 people within the city, and that's fantastic. And we are also, when I looked through the data, one of the fastest growing local governments in all of Australia. And 5 of our growth areas within Queensland, 5 out of 10 were the fastest growing. So we're really continuing that growth momentum. 400,000 people in the city is a very large number. Hobart only has about 250,000 people, and the state of Tasmania only has about 500,000. So we're continuing to see that growth momentum. We're continuing to see the rollout of dwellings within the city, and we expect the planning scheme to continue that growth trajectory. So it's a good news story for the city. Lots of growth, so I think we're about 3.9%, which is the highest in Queensland, and the highest in certainly southeast Queensland. And nationally, we are in the top 10 of highest growing cities, LGAs, in Australia. So we're continuing to see that growth momentum, regardless of what you hear in the news about a slowdown. Logan continues to still do the heavy lifting, predominantly in the greenfields, which isn't ideal for us from a financial point of view, but it still provides an opportunity for people to move to Logan and live in Logan, especially people that are first home buyers wanting to move to the city. So 400,000, that's a great number for the city. Our gross regional product is 16 billion, so the city continues to grow. When I started at Logan 10 years ago, the city had about 305,000 people, so we've seen still a fairly good trajectory of growth over that period of time, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dave. And obviously that comes with its challenges too, doesn't it? But no, it's exciting news. Councillor Bradley.
Yeah, thank you. Just noting all that, and thank you for that information, because that was very insightful. Is there any strategic direction going forward of how we should manage that growth?
So the new planning scheme will manage the growth, so looking to encourage more infill development, and particularly the owner-occupier, first home owners property within the infill, so the terraced housing with the greenfields. To manage that growth, we've implemented an additional payment condition to make sure that developers are paying their way instead of the ratepayer having to pick up the balance, because as you know, we can only charge $32,000 per lot in the greenfield, and it certainly costs us a lot more than that to deliver services.
Is there any opportunity of presenting a report? Because I know that information that you gave us was in an email, which was great, but is there any way of presenting that holistically in a report so that it is in the public domain and then can be sold out to the community, or do you have to wait for the planning scheme?
Through the chair, that's a great idea. We can prepare a report once we get a little bit more information around dwelling numbers and travel to work data, and put that back through committee.
Hey, thank you, Councillor Brown. Oh, we've got a couple more. Oh, yeah, sure. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, through the chair, Mr. Race, would that be just easy to be put in the planning scheme?
Through the chair, so we could do both. So the planning scheme has a set of assumptions of where we're growing to, but we can probably prepare a bespoke report that just talks to the ABS data.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bannon. We have Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, through the chair. Could you just explain again the new way of funding that gap that was introduced, the infrastructure charge gap?
Through the Chair, so this is predominantly growth that's outside the priority infrastructure area. So our priority infrastructure area, or our PDA, is where we plan our trunk infrastructure. So that's where the local government infrastructure plan comes in. You'll remember that the cost to service growth was $2 billion. We could only fund it to a chord of $1.2 billion. So there was an $800 million gap. So the decision of council was that out of sequence growth should pay for itself, and we'll ask developers to enter into infrastructure agreements to pay the true cost of development.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jackson. Okay, well, thank you, Dave and Ella, and carry on with your day. Thanks. All right, that concludes the agenda for today. Does anyone have any general business for the Waste and Resource Recovery Manager, Mr. Michael Asnacar, in his capacity as manager, or to pass on to the director this morning? Mayor Raven.
Michael, how are we going with the information about green waste? Have I missed an email?
We're going well. No, you haven't yet missed an email. I'm just crunching some numbers for you, and you will have it shortly.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing further. Okay, I now declare the... Oh, I just went, did you have any GB for us? Sorry.
No.
Okay,
no,
perfect, sorry. I now declare the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting of the 9th of April concluded at 9:21, and the City Lifestyle meeting will commence in 10 minutes at 9:31. Thank you, councillors.